If you still believe Ducati's factory garage is a place of calm control and red-painted harmony, you are not watching closely enough. The smiles are rehearsed, the answers are polished, but behind the walls of Borgo Panigale, tension is rising, fast. And the most deafening sound in MotoGP right now isn't an engine, it's Ducati's silence. Francesco Bagnaia looks composed when contract questions come flying his way, measured, professional, almost cold. But that calm is not confidence, it's containment. Because this is no longer about a simple renewal. This is about hierarchy being rewritten, money being redistributed, and Ducati quietly redefining who truly matters. And for the first time in years, a double MotoGP world champion no longer looks untouchable. Listen to what Ducati doesn't say. In modern MotoGP politics, words matter, but omissions matter more. And over the last few days, Ducati's leadership has drawn a brutal line in the sand without ever admitting it publicly. Márquez first, everyone else later. That everyone else includes Pecco Bagnaia. Bagnaia's contract expires at the end of this season, yet the urgency around his future feels strangely muted. No panic, no public reassurance, no "he's our cornerstone" narrative. That silence is not accidental, it's calculated. The rider market is already moving at full speed. Deals are being shaped, salaries debated, futures mapped out behind closed doors. What fans hear is only the echo, not the negotiation, and Ducati is controlling the echo. Madonna de Campoglio, when the spotlight shifted. On stage at Madonna de Campoglio, Bagnaia was the face of Ducati. Cameras loved him, fans cheered him, but offstage, the real message was delivered elsewhere. CEO Claudio Domenicali said it plainly: renewing Márquez is Ducati's top priority. A complex contract, yes, but one they are determined to solve. Team manager Davide Tardazzi didn't soften the blow, he reinforced it. Only after Márquez's decision, they said, would Ducati fully address the second rider. Let that sink in. Bagnaia, double MotoGP world champion, Ducati Academy product, symbol of continuity, has been publicly positioned as a conditional, a backup plan, a next step. That is not normal language, not for a reigning champion, not for a rider built inside your own system. This isn't about ego, it's about strategy and money. Power has shifted, and Ducati knows it. When Márquez entered the Ducati project, he did so from weakness, injuries, doubts, a reputation in recovery. He had to accept Ducati's terms because he needed Ducati more than Ducati needed him. That era is over. After dominating last season and re-establishing himself as the grid's reference point, Márquez now negotiates from strength. The balance of power has flipped, and Ducati feels it. But Ducati isn't Yamaha. It isn't Honda. There is no infinite budget. If Márquez commands a massive new deal, someone else in that garage will pay the price. And Bagnaia is not a rider who signed his last contract as a hopeful. He signed it as a world champion. Accepting reduced conditions, financial or political, would be a humiliation, especially if his internal status is being quietly downgraded. The cracks that never healed. Performance hasn't helped his case. Bagnaia's dip last season left scars inside the garage. He openly questioned the technical direction, particularly the front-end feeling of the Desmosedici GP25. That is never trivial. When a factory rider publicly doubts the engineers, trust fractures, and once that trust cracks, it doesn't magically heal over winter. It just moves from the pit box to the boardroom. Bagnaia says he's relaxed, focused on racing. That sounds noble, but the rider market doesn't care about sporting rhythm. It runs on deadlines. Multiple agents believe that by the time the season opens in Thailand, most 2027-2028 factory lineups could already be locked in. If that's true, waiting to prove himself on track may already be too late, which raises a brutal possibility. Has Ducati already chosen? Recent comments linking Pedro Acosta to Ducati only poured fuel on the fire. Ducati didn't like the speculation, but they didn't kill it either. And in MotoGP, weak denials are invitations. Acosta represents everything Ducati finds irresistible: youth, raw aggression, global hype, and a willingness to accept almost any terms just to wear factory red. Sound familiar? It's the same strategic gamble Ducati once made with Márquez. Now the question becomes uncomfortable. Do Ducati double down on Bagnaia, the most successful rider in their modern history, betting that last season was an anomaly? Or do they accelerate the generational shift, bring in Acosta, and lock in a post-Márquez future before it's too late? From a racing perspective, Bagnaia equals stability. From a strategic one, Acosta equals momentum, and momentum sells. When confidence becomes collateral damage. Bagnaia isn't out yet, but for the first time, his seat is no longer protected by results alone. Politics, finances, and long-term vision are now equally decisive. And the most dangerous part, the decision may already be leaning away from him before the first lights even go out. This is where the psychological layer bites. Bagnaia thrives on trust, on structure, on knowing the project is built around him. When that sense of centrality fades, even slightly, performance follows it down. In MotoGP, confidence isn't optional. It's a performance tool as vital as aerodynamics or grip. A subtle shift with violent consequences. Inside Ducati, the narrative has changed. Bagnaia was once the embodiment of the brand's future, homegrown, disciplined, perfected through the academy. Now the orbit has shifted towards star power, global impact, and commercial gravity. There's also a technical undercurrent. Ducati's evolution towards a sharper, more aggressive front end naturally favors certain riding styles. If development continues to align more closely with Márquez's feedback, Bagnaia risks becoming a rider who adapts to the bike rather than shaping it. Over a full season, that's not a detail, it's a disadvantage. From management's view, this may look logical. Secure Márquez, groom the next star, protect the future. But racing isn't a spreadsheet. Letting a proven champion feel secondary doesn't just threaten one rider, it destabilizes the entire garage. Morale shifts, engineering focus blurs, risk-taking changes, and sometimes the most dangerous fire in MotoGP isn't the one you see, it's the one burning quietly inside your own team. The danger for Ducati is believing this tension can be managed quietly. MotoGP history is brutal towards teams that underestimate wounded champions. When a rider begins to feel expendable, every data trace, every feedback note, every risky overtake starts carrying a second meaning. Bagnaia may still wear red, but if doubt takes root, he will no longer ride like the unquestioned leader of the project. He will ride like a man being evaluated, and that changes everything. There is also the risk of misreading loyalty. Bagnaia never been a political operator. He trusted the system because he believed the system trusted him. But loyalty in MotoGP is not blind. It is conditional. Once a rider senses that decisions are being made above his head, conversations begin elsewhere. Options that once felt unthinkable suddenly become necessary, and Ducati may wake up one day to realize that stability is not something you postpone without cost. What makes this moment explosive is timing. Ducati sits at the peak of technical dominance, yet internal uncertainty threatens to fracture that advantage. Engineers respond differently when they sense internal favoritism. Development paths subtly lean. Feedback gets weighted. The bike evolves, but not neutrally. And when that happens, performance gaps grow not because one rider is weaker, but because the ecosystem itself has shifted. Bagnaia's real battle, then, is not only against Márquez or a potential Acosta arrival, it is against narrative erosion. Champions survive not just on lap times, but on belief. Belief from the garage, the factory, and the decision-makers who shape the future. Once that belief is diluted, even the strongest results start to feel temporary, conditional, and politically fragile. For Ducati, the gamble is enormous. Losing Bagnaia would mean not just losing races, it would mean losing an identity they spent years constructing. He represents continuity, technical literacy, and a development language forged over seasons. Replacing that with raw talent and star power may win headlines, but it risks resetting internal coherence at the very moment dominance should be consolidated. And yet, Ducati appears willing to walk this razor's edge. The attraction of immediate impact, global attention, and future-proofing the brand may outweigh the discomfort of sidelining a proven champion. That calculation may be rational, but MotoGP is filled with rational decisions that collapsed under human emotion, wounded pride, and fractured trust. Because if Bagnaia enters this season feeling like a question mark instead of an answer, Ducati won't just be managing contracts,